Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara Zoner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
grab a cup of love.
A Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast. So I'm picturing a hillside, long rolling hill. I'm at the top of the hill, and I see trees on both sides. And as it goes down to the bottom of the hill, there's a road that crosses this way, and on the other side of the road, there's more trees. And then on that road, there's it's a business of some kind because it's got a parking lot. And it's like a house on top of a hill looking down at a business. I see what I would consider to be a sunny but hazy kind of day. On top of the hill, I see it's like an SUV, like a black. And if I was going to give it a name, I would say it's a Jeep Liberty SUV. I can hear birds. I can hear nature sounds. I can smell flowers. And the whole scene is very calm and serene. And there's there's less than 10 people here. There's less than 10 people in this whole picture. And there's not a lot going on right now, but there's definitely people down in that building by the road that are working. Okay. So today we're talking about remote viewing. And remote viewing is an interesting topic that I did not give my co-host a heads up on, because I wanted her to have an experience and I wanted her to come at it with not knowing what we were going to talk about, because I love her perspective, her experience, and her whole outlook when she's coming at something fresh like that. So let's get into finding out what she thought about that kind of stuff and thought about remote viewing. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Tamara Zoner. How are you, Tamara Zoner?
I'm curious, John. How are you?
I am good. I am not a big remote viewer, and I've studied it, I've looked at it, and I know a lot about some of the people who still do it, and I know a little bit about the government projects for using it. Ooh. And they started it in the 60s, and they used it all the way up through the war in Afghanistan, and they probably still have a unit that does it now. There was a movie, something about the word goats was in the title. I forget what it was, but it was about Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine, my friend Michael, he has a counselor that he works with, who was a remote viewer in Afghanistan, who was literally over. She got wounded and actually came home, but she was over there literally to try to find Osama bin Laden. And through remote viewing, the government was using her as a remote viewer, because they have seen results. They've and some of their best remote viewers have an 85% accuracy rate.
Wow.
So to me, that's fascinating. So what I did today, before we even got on the thing, was I said, okay, give me a description of a place that is pertinent. That's all I said. And I have that image is what came up in my head. And I felt as though I was standing there on top of a hill, low sloping hill. Does that mean anything to you?
So you don't know where you were seeing?
I have no idea where I was seeing.
Because you totally described the property I live on.
Oh my God, really?
Yes. So I live on top of it. When you first started describing this, I was like, okay. And then I was like, well, wait, what? Wait. So I live on top of a hill. Mm-hmm. Down the hill is the family business. Okay. In front of a street. Mm-hmm. It's not hazy today. I checked out the window as you were talking. It's
Mhm.
pretty blue. And there is a Jeep in the
Oh,
driveway.
is it really?
It's
What
not
kind
a
of Jeep?
Liberty, it's a Laredo, and it's white.
Okay. It's
But
white. Okay.
other than
I
that,
saw black.
like, and on the property at the moment, if you count workers and people who live on the property, there are probably around 10 people. Now, I don't know how many customers the store has today. It's a nice day, they might be busy. But, and of course, it's a greenhouse. So there are flowers, there are always birds chirping. It is quite serene here, depending on if my dad's got a tractor running or he's cutting wood or whatever.
Huh.
So you very articulately described what I like to call Zonerland.
Oh, really? Have I ever been there?
You have never been there.
Okay.
I
Have we ever
don't even
discussed it?
think, no, we've not really. I mean, I think we've discussed the fact that my family has a business and that I
Mhm.
live on the property, but I've never described it. And I don't even think if you were to look at Google Maps that you could, or, you know, the satellite, that you could really see the hill. The way you described it is pretty perfect. It's not like a really giant hill. It is a hill, Michigan
Mhm.
Hill, typical Michigan Hill. Uh, so that was pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, remote viewing. So, have you had any experience with remote viewing before?
No, I mean, I've heard of it, and so I know the general idea. I've never seen that movie, though I have been curious about it. George Clooney's in it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and, but I have not, I'm trying to remember if Claire has ever, you know, Claire, who we spoke to a couple of weeks ago, if she's done any remote viewing. I know when she was practicing and first developing her skills, she would describe the room I was in to me, but I'm not
Oh,
sure if she was using simply impressions or the process of remote viewing.
well, the impressions are remote viewing.
Okay, so
Okay. There's lots of different concepts around what remote viewing is. I consider remote viewing conscious astral projection
okay,
because you're literally projecting your consciousness somewhere and saying what you see. Now, true scientific remote viewing is done in a very interesting way. You have a person who thinks of a target, and then he wherever he is writes down target A is the pyramid of Giza, the Great
okay,
Pyramid, right? So target A is the Great Pyramid, and then he'll say he'll write down when was it built, and how was it built, or whatever, and then he'll take that target and he'll assign a number to it. You know, yeah. So in other words, your target today is number 76321, right? Whatever number. I just made
hmm
those off the top of my head. So then the remote viewer will get basically usually an email or a letter or something that doesn't touch the other person. They get 76321 in an envelope. And then
okay,
they sit there and they have to remote view what 76321 is. So they have no information. They are completely trained to not put um, descriptors on things. Like, for instance, me saying black Jeep Liberty was the wrong way to view,
okay,
right? But I got Jeep pretty well,
yeah,
right. But black Jeep Liberty, well, I was adding my own ego on it in a way, my own picture on it. So the idea of as you're remote viewing, your job really is to stay very general. The problem with staying very general
hmm
is that the people who don't believe in remote viewing will say,
then
look, well, that
yeah,
could have been anything.
right,
That could have been totally anything. They're just, it's like the magicians who say they're leading people, right? And now when I described what seems to be your house there, your
yes,
Zonerland, um, all I had is what was pertinent. What's pertinent today?
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's so interesting.
and so and that was the picture I got, right? So I guess the broader picture of remote viewing has to come down to huge, giant spiritual question.
Mm-hmm.
What is consciousness? You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
right? It's a huge spiritual question because we had a discussion in one of the other podcasts about there's texts in the Vedas and a lot of the other Hindu texts about gurus who would come to a river and the river be too rough to cross. And so they would project their consciousness to the other side
Right.
and manifest their body in that spot and keep walking, right? Which is fascinating to
So
think about it,
fascinating.
right? So the idea of that is they had to project their consciousness first, right? Now I also know that the first time I experienced anything remotely like that was when I was literally trying to have another out of body experience. After I had my first out of body experience, I was like an out of body experience addict.
I want to do that again.
I would every night I was like, ooh, and I had just huge experiences because I kept trying. But the one night I literally went out of body and I was in Annapolis, Maryland, and I went to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, which is 2 hours drive away.
Okay.
And I was there in 5 minutes. And I literally was in the room with one of my best friends. And so I was experiencing him asleep in his bed in his room. His light was on too, which was really weird. He was sound asleep, but his light was on. And then I projected conscious thought while I was there. And
Mm-hmm.
I said to him, purple rhinoceros, purple rhinoceros, purple rhinoceros, purple rhinoceros. Because I said, if he ever said purple rhinoceros to me, I know that I did something. And the next day he says, you were in my dream last night. You kept saying purple rhinoceros. So, but
so cool.
so the concept to me of remote viewing is not that foreign. And I think it really comes down to the idea of understanding that we are just our thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess here's the perspective I'd like to ask you about. So if we truly are just our thought, when we remote view, are we viewing the thoughts of others?
Oh. That's a big question. Are we? Or are we viewing instead the greater consciousness, which simply sees? Right? I don't know.
It's interesting, isn't it?
That one's a big one to wrap the mind around. So I'm trying to allow my body to feel through it as well.
Yeah,
Because
it makes you actually go, okay, this is ridiculous because it literally negates time and space.
mm-hmm.
Because you're in one space at a certain time, and now I'm 2 hours away experiencing that. So it really is a big, broad, giant picture.
It really is. And I'm so interested because, I'm curious about so many things in this conversation. So thanks for springing it on me. Because now I'm thinking back to, so I have a second cousin who comes and visits each year. They spend some time with my parents, and the wife is psychic. And she's like a psychic counselor. And so she'll give me readings. And then the last time she came to visit, I asked her with some help. I said, I'd like to open up more. I'd like to develop my own skill a little bit. Where should we start? And she said, well, take my hand and let's practice. And I was like, we're right now? I'm not ready for that. But I did it. And I described her home, in fact, with some degree of accuracy. And it was very surprising for me because I was like, I'm just making this up, I think. She said, just don't worry about that. Just go ahead, make it up. And just, what else do you see? And I described this little stream and a mountain behind and this cute little house. And she's like, yeah, that's my home. And so what was I tapping into then? What is any person with psychic abilities tapping into? I think it's the all that is. I think it's all knowledge that is always available, that related to the person that we're closest to, maybe we're speaking with or thinking of, because if time and space are irrelevant, then our thoughts put us with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then that's why those impressions came up. And I wasn't viewing per se, but I was seeing
right
her home because she also was opening to me to allow me into her space, and I'm always open. I mean, well, not always. Any psychic perverts out there? I don't know if there are psychic perverts.
Psychic perverts. That's a
That's
whole nother episode.
Exactly.
Psychic, and I believe in psychic perverts because I've met a few.
Okay, because I'm like, remote viewed into somebody's bedroom, John. I mean,
well, no, those psychic perverts I'm talking about are the ones who claim to be psychic and use it for negative means.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So the remote viewing to me is fascinating, and I think everyone who's listening should just try it, and do what I did. But say something pertinent. So what I want to do is I want to try it with you, young lady. Okay.
I hate being put on the spot with that kind of a thing.
Okay, don't hate it, love it, because no matter what you get is correct. No matter what you get is correct. Okay, so I'm going to think about a very specific place. Okay. Let's just call it number 2. right.
Your toilet?
It is the shit. Sorry.
We're getting crazy today, folks. Apologies.
So I'm going to think about number 2, and this specific place, and it's a specific place because to remote view you need a place, and so I'm going to think about a very specific place, and I want you to all I want you to do is I want you to just relax. Don't judge anything that comes into your head. And if suddenly you think of I don't know, Donkey Kong, say Donkey Kong. You know what I mean? Whatever comes into your head, say it. Don't worry, don't judge it. Just breathe and relax and think. Okay, what's number 2?
Okay, but wait. So okay, last week we talked about meditation. So today I'm like, okay, so do I need to like try to clear my mind first? Do I try to do like a whiteboard exercise where I wipe it all down? Because now I'm thinking of all sorts of things, but I'm thinking of places I know. And
I think you're over making more overthinking it, making it more complicated than it is. Just
how you
take
know
a breath.
he sprung this on me, folks.
Right. That's why I did totally spring it on her. I totally sprung it on her. So just take a breath, relax, and then whatever comes to your head.
Okay. I'm trying to love this. I'm trying to be open, but I see a carnival.
Okay. Don't think about trying to love it. Just breathe and relax.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I'm thinking this is all part of the process, folks. It's fine. Yeah, so I'm seeing like a circus tent, carnival, kind of a place on a beach, and then my analytical brain is going, no, you're just thinking about where John has told you he lives, so, or was from.
Don't just say it. Don't think about it.
That's difficult in this moment. No, let me rephrase. I'm finding that I need to open. I want to open. All right, well, now I'm seeing a tent in the woods with, it's dusky, almost dark, stars, shadows. It's very, very quiet. It's like super duper quiet. There's no river. That's all I got.
Any sounds?
No, it's like super, super quiet. Like it's at the depths of a canyon.
Any smells?
Leaves. I smell leaves.
And how do you feel?
I feel open, in awe, safe, protected. Which is not how I would expect to feel in a tent or a campsite of sorts.
Okay, you ready?
Okay.
You want me to tell you what you're talking about?
All right.
You were extremely accurate. Extremely accurate. most of my spiritual awakenings, a lot of my biggest spiritual experience happened in the campsite at the Maryland Renaissance Festival, which is in a ravine behind the festival down in the woods. And for a lot of that, I was either in a travel trailer or a tent. Um, I had huge experiences. When you're down in that campground, you basically only see woods and trees, and it smells like leaves. It smells because you're in deep woods.
Mhm.
Um, there is no stream, but there's at the very back end. There's an area where everything drains down to. Um, the idea of a tent can also mean I was at a Renaissance festival.
Mhm.
So you have Renaissance Festival tents right up the hill. So
Mhm.
it could have been that I was in the woods in my trailer. I had a beautiful 24-foot Airstream travel trailer.
You've mentioned it.
Awesome, awesome. I love that trailer so much. And then I got a big fifth wheel, and I missed my little tiny trailer. But so that place to me, still to this day, when I think about that place, it's like, I love that place. I'm so open and free there. I'm so,
Mm.
I never got better sleep than when I was there. And now this is like 5 minutes to the Annapolis Mall, I mean, but it's this little tiny space that makes you feel like you're in a Peruvian rainforest. It's really weird because it's down, and it's, like I said, it's down in this valley behind the festival site. And I also used to build at that site. I used to build something that became rather famous at the Renaissance Festival, something called the living room. Every year I would go out to thrift stores and I would build an outside living room with a giant canopy tarp over it. And I literally would take wires and hang pictures as if there were walls there.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And I'd go to the carpet dealers and I'd find all the scrap carpet and I'd put a rug down. I literally would build a living room, and it became known as the living room. And what we became famous for was the living room was the biggest party central of the campground. But the reason is because we did nothing but sing a cappella doo-wop all night long. Right.
You know
And
how much I love that. I love that.
right. And then at 11 o'clock, when the choir hour hit, we would sing the worst rendition of the national anthem you could possibly see or hear, and that would,
Right.
and then that would end, and boom, total silence. Right. But Monday through Friday, when the fair wasn't on, that campground was quiet. It was serene. It was peaceful. The reason I asked about, did you hear anything? Because one of the things that there was a day that I was in the campground alone, and I was down there totally relaxed, sitting in the living room, which I have funny stories about the living room. I'll tell you about sometime. Ask me when we're off the air about the elephant that caught on fire. The
Oh,
elephant that caught on fire.
oh
It
my.
wasn't a real elephant, but it was interesting. Um, but I'm sitting there in that woods, and I'm so calm and relaxed. And all of a sudden, I hear. So the festival has a pipe organ. And at the top of the hill, the guy started practicing the song they used in Phantom of the Opera
Oh
movie.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I did not hear that. No.
That's all I was like. I was curious when
I
you heard
don't think
that.
I would have felt as safe as I did
But
had I heard
but
that.
you absolutely described everything. And the beats thing was interesting because, yes, I am the one, and I'm a beach guy, and that's,
Yeah.
beaches are my thing, right? But I couldn't think beach because I knew you knew that.
Right.
Right. I
Yeah.
knew you knew that. So, but you totally pegged everything. So well done on you.
Thanks. I mean, and thanks for pushing me.
All right.
I like to be pushed into uncomfortable places.
Now check this out though. You just want to cross space and time,
Hmm.
because I haven't been in that campground for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. So you literally went across space and time. You went to the place, you saw the place, and you experienced a time in my life, but not this time.
Right.
So how do you assess that?
Well, when you ask the question, see what's pertinent, then because of the connection that we have and that we're creating through these podcasts, because folks really were getting to know each other on these podcasts or before and after a little bit,
Yeah.
I was shown something deeply important to you, like this place of coming from, right? Because so much of your path came from your experiences there and then. And so I guess that makes it's weird to be talking about what I just observed as if I'm observing myself again. Um, but it's so interesting. Like, that's what I feel like. I feel like I was given a sense of your almost not your beginnings because you weren't a child, but your the opening of your path, right? The opening of your path.
That's a great way to describe it, because that place, there are so, I mean, that's okay. I had my first out of body experience in New Orleans, but all of my conscious, active doing that work was
Mm-hmm.
in that campground,
Mm.
was literally in that campground. And I met a man there who I lovingly call the biker shaman, right? And he, when you met him, hey, I got a cup of coffee. Hey, do right? And then he was a massage therapist, and he would come out with these just bits of wisdom. And you'd be like, yeah, where'd that come from, right? The guy literally lived in a teepee. He had a
Wow.
teepee in the campground, and and it was awesome. But it was like a real deal, like campfire in the middle of the teepee, and it was like, yes,
Oh,
this is good.
wow.
He had a dog that was part wolf, and yeah, it was
Cool.
really interesting. And but he used to manipulate energies with his hands, and you could literally, he would like do things where he would take his hands and he would actively, consciously believe he was collecting, and then he would push it towards you, and you'd feel it hit you.
Oh, wow.
And no, now is that you going, I'm buying into what he's saying, or is
Mm-hmm.
there something? But you could literally feel it hit you and rise up through your body. He was fascinating, fascinating guy. But
Wow.
Rhett, the biker shaman.
You can get him on as a guest. That'd be fun.
It would be really
Rhett,
interesting.
if you're listening, we'd love
I
to
know
chat.
I totally have his email. I can get a hold of him. He's on my Facebook page, so I can talk to
Cool.
him. Um, but the interesting thing to me is that you just remote viewed.
That is very interesting to me as well.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
went into it kind of kicking and screaming.
A little bit, but
Right.
my tantrums last just very briefly. So
Yeah.
because like I want to grow, I want to learn, I'm curious, and so I'm open, and this is like art to me, right? So my grandmother was this amazing artist, and I don't feel like I got the talent in the hands, right? I can
Mm.
sing, I can speak, uh, I have good stage presence, but you see me draw, it's not that good. And so whenever, as a director of life enrichment in a senior community, there was art involved. Seniors love their art, and I would hire artists to come in and teach classes. And then once in a while, I'd sit in and watch, and then they'd invite me. And go, no, no, like no. But then if I would sit down and just do it, I had so much fun and didn't care what. I have my own painting in my living room
Mm.
that's just blobby colors and things, but it was such an enjoyable experience. So I went in kicking and screaming, and then found, well, I really love it. Like, it's actually really fun and liberating and freeing. And this was the same kind of experience. Like, it's something that I actually want to be able to do. It's something I've always wanted to explore, and I've had this resistance to it, as a Capricorn thinking kind of a person.
Mm.
But then obviously there's this bigger part of me that is constantly and consciously opening up to greater aspects of myself. So
Right.
thank you
So,
for
oh,
opening that
you're welcome.
door.
So what is the characteristic of Capricorn? Because I don't know that.
Oh, we're very like in the head and doers and motivated and everything by the book. And that's just my sun sign. I can never remember what my moon sign is, but I'm more of that, whatever it is.
I can't remember it. I'm more of that though.
I'm pretty sure.
Because I choose that. Ha ha ha. Right?
Well, and we
And
can
see,
choose whatever we want to be, people.
and I'm a Gemini because I'm the size of two.
Oh, Well, you are. I know that now because I know your birthday is the same as my oldest daughter's, and she's a Gemini. I get along fabulously with Geminis. My sister
Yeah.
is a Gemini. My older brother's a Gemini. We don't always get
No,
along
and we get
fabulous.
along just fine.
We sure do.
These podcasts are so much fun just because of the
Mhm.
fact that we can laugh and we can play around
Yeah,
and we can, we don't judge each other, and it's
yeah.
just great. I love the fact that in this podcast that we just did and just doing or just about to finish up here
Mhm.
is, we both remote viewed. We both had experiences that we had no idea what we were talking about,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah,
yet the other person said, "Well, yeah, that's exactly what it was,"
yeah.
right? And so that's pretty fascinating if you really think about it,
It
right?
really is. Yeah, I'm gonna have to
especially,
listen to this one a few times, I think.
yeah, especially considering the fact that you didn't even know the topic we are going into today.
I know. I was like so curious. Like if you're listening, go watch the YouTube because I don't know if you'll see my face, but when it comes back to me, you'll see the confounded look on my face. What's that? Why is he describing my home?
Well, that's something I do want to ask you. As it was happening,
Mhm.
what did it make you think?
Uh, well, what did it make me think? I
Or
felt
what was your
curious.
experience?
I
Yeah.
felt really curious. Uh, and then okay, so then I did have thoughts. I was like, did he like look on maps or something? Is he,
Right.
you know? Uh, but the perspective you were looking from isn't available on maps, right?
Yeah, I was on top
They
of a
don't
hill
come up
looking
the hill.
down.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So that was, and then I was like, oh, like, yeah, I don't know really what he's doing with this, but he's seeing this area. He's seeing what I see when I walk out my front door and look down the hill.
So I literally was looking at it from your perspective.
Yes, from my perspective. Yeah.
Okay. So what is pertinent today? It's Tamara's perspective.
And John's opening.
To
Yeah.
me at that moment, that what was pertinent was
Yeah.
your perspective, right? Because that's what
Right.
we said. So even before we started talking, I said I love throwing something at you because I love
That's
hearing
so
your
true. That's
perspective.
exactly what you
Right?
said. You like absolutely defined the intention and got it.
Right, right.
That's
So
cool. Actually, that's
pretty.
even more cool now that you brought that back up.
That's pretty. That is
I
very
think our
cool.
listeners might need to listen to this one twice.
I'm very excited about this one. I think this was a really good one.
That's
I
fun.
think that it opens people's minds to the possibility of something more.
Mhm.
And then of course there is the deeper thought of, what is consciousness, and that'll put you off on years of going, oh,
Oh,
what the
yes.
hell, oh, right, and
Yeah.
pulling your hair. Oh my god, I got my hair.
Meditate on that one. Yeah,
Right,
John's pulled
right.
all his hair out thinking about that.
Yeah, look at that. And this shows you don't ever go to the marketplace in Djibouti, Africa, which is on the equator, without a hat.
Yeah, don't do that.
I
Don't
had
do that.
sun poisoning
I mean,
across the
even if
top
you
of my
have
head.
hair, don't go without a hat. You need your hat.
Oh yeah, I wear a hat all the time outside now. Anyway, well, thank you for a great experience with that.
Thank you. That was fun.
And so I'll let you leave us with your final thoughts since I threw that at you.
All right. Yeah, this one I'll be pondering. I'm glad I have a little time before my next event. So anyway, if you found that curious, let us know your thoughts on today's episode on our Facebook page or leave us a review wherever you're listening or watching and share your thoughts with us because we really want to engage you in the conversation and we're curious to know what you think and how this episode made you feel and what it might have opened you to in exploring within yourself. So thank you, John Davis, for this unique experience today. And I'm Tamara. We will see you or hear you, or you'll hear us next time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Leave all comments and suggestions on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page.